Okay, so here I am again, back to the interviews, and today I'm joined by a friend of mine called Lynn, and we are going to discuss, along with her own mental health journey. Specifically, we're going to talk about medication and kind of being under mental health services.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, Lynn, let's start off by you telling us a little bit why you ended up under mental health services, and I guess how you first was introduced to medication, really. So
Okay. So it was a long journey.
right,
Um,
from the age of when did you kind of find?
about 20.
Right, okay, yeah,
So I spent a long time being unwell, not under mental health services.
right.
I had.
What did you think at the beginning? So you wasn't under mental health services. You start to struggle. What was you thinking then? Can you remember?
So my thinking was I started to think the spies are out, and there were
Right.
certain smells that
Right.
would kind of highlight to me that there was someone who was like spying on me.
So you were becoming psychotic,
Becoming paranoid.
paranoid, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What was that? Would you say? Do you think anything triggered that off?
Well, much later on when I was in mental health services, a psychologist told me that I was predisposed.
What does that mean?
So it would be likely that I would have become paranoid and psychotic.
Right. Because why?
Regardless, just because of life experiences.
Right. Okay.
Like
traumatic events or lifestyle choices, should we say?
Just because of events that had happened in my life.
Right.
But I took quite a lot of drugs when I was a teenager.
Yeah, as many people do.
And that triggered my predisposition into becoming a reality, if you like.
Okay.
So it was.
So I guess
helped along.
let's say at the beginning when you're becoming really paranoid. How did you manage to deal with that sort of level, I guess, of distress or worry, should we say? Like prior to coming under mental health services, is it?
Well, I was absolutely convinced that that some people wanted me to kill myself.
Did you kill yourself?
Yeah.
Right.
They wanted me to kill myself, or they were going to drive me insane.
Right. By spying on you?
No, I think that was just their intention.
Okay. Yeah.
Their intention, and they were watching me. I got to a point where I couldn't watch television because it was as if the television was
referencing
talking to me.
Talking to you, right?
Yeah, and laughing at me.
Right.
I could listen to the radio, but that became a bit triggery as well.
Okay.
But
in terms of what the DJ was talking about you, or songs were singing about you. Well, I know that.
Well, specific songs that were aimed at me.
Yeah.
And just generally talking. So a thing that I had particularly was overhearing conversations.
Right.
So if there was a conversation, like on the radio or even people in the street, I would.
Right.
It would be as if the conversation was meant for me to hear.
Right.
To remind me that there was a purpose happening. That was, the intention was for me to realise that these people were not going to give up until I was either dead or insane.
So you kind of thought it was like a conspiracy against you.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess that's gone on for how long before you seeked help?
Sorry.
You're right.
I didn't seek help. Well, so initially I went to a doctor.
Right.
And asked him to administer me with some drugs that would kill me.
Really?
And so he then decided I needed to go to hospital,
Right.
which obviously I wasn't in my right mind.
Just out of interest, can you remember what he said to such a request?
Oh, we can't do that.
Right.
Don't be stupid.
Right.
You know, that's really not something I can do. I think he said something like that.
So then did he like ask you lots of other questions to kind of understand why you were asking for such a request?
I can't remember. All I
Right.
remember is that after that, a friend of mine, the doctor said I had to go, or he wanted me to go into hospital, which I agreed to.
Right.
I've always had quite a lot of insight, so I've always
Right.
had a dual thing going on where I'm aware that actually some of my thinking and feelings are a bit off skew.
Right.
You know, a bit.
But you've
kind of-
always felt that?
even from the beginning,
Right.
I've always kind of had a questioning, had a
Yeah.
kind of challenging myself as
Right.
to like, is this
real?
Is this real?
Yeah.
Why am I thinking this? This is like, you know, this is bizarre, Linda. But
Can I just ask you a question? So you're feeling people are almost plotting against you, right? This whole picture is getting bigger and bigger. How scary is that?
oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Right.
It's really not okay in a massive way. It's very you just feel entirely alone against a big monster that's out there, and no one will believe you.
Yeah.
I was, when I went to the doctor, he then said I needed to go to hospital.
Right.
At which point I was in the room where they had the two doctors,
Right.
or the three no, there was two doctors, and they were like saying to me, "You can come in voluntarily. If you refuse to come in, then we're going
Right.
to section you,"
Okay.
which was alarmingly frightening. And
Right.
because I'd said I want to die,
Right.
they put me on 24-hour watch,
Right.
which was horrendous. I can't tell you how.
Is that
Horrible
do
it is.
you want to die
Mm.
because is that because the level of distress and fear that you're experiencing? Like
Yeah.
I'd rather die than live with this
Yeah.
amount of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Right.
just wanted to die. I just wanted to not be here anymore.
Right. And did you? I haven't been through that, but I've been through lots of paranoias and people plotting against me. That I used to be so scared, but I used to bury myself in alcohol and ways to sort of to not be so scared, basically. That wasn't helping me. Do you, without getting too personal, but how did you manage to live with that amount of fear?
Well, yeah.
Do you talk about it with people? Friends, family?
No. I didn't tell them what was going on in my head.
Right.
Because I was too frightened. I was too confused. I was like, you know, what if it is real? What if it isn't real? Yeah, I used to drink and take other drugs.
Did you find that helped?
I don't know really. I think I just got. I mean, much later on when I'd been unwell, because I was unwell for a good 10 years before I was under any mental health services.
Right. So you're experiencing all that for 10 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was learning. I was, you know, reflecting back. I was actually on a recovery journey.
Right.
Because I was learning about myself. I was learning about how my brain would jump to some conclusions and how it would then run off with things. But I also had a very, very deep depression. So I was very, very stuck and very unable to find any motivation.
Right.
I had lots of reasons for motivation, but to actually move or do anything, you know, physical or
Right.
just stuff.
And do you think that depression was the result of being under that much stress for a long time?
I think I was probably depressed as quite a young person, and
Right.
it built up.
Right.
Because I think I've since discovered that I've got dyslexia,
Right.
and I've also got a thing called Erlen syndrome, which is
Right.
visual stress.
Right.
And
What do you
that,
mean?
so things move when I look at them,
Right.
and
Am I moving?
no, like if I was looking at writing,
Right. Oh, okay. Right.
or you just see things, or things look a bit
Yeah, no, I think I've
askew.
seen things like that.
Yeah.
On TV and that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that contributes to some sort of minor mental health issues. But I
Right.
think I was dealing with that as a very much younger person,
Right.
and I think that kind of set a base for me
Right.
to become even more unwell, and
Yeah.
then sort of taking drugs and my underlying predisposition for paranoia and psychosis. It all in my 20s, it all just came together,
Right.
and I became this very unwell person.
Right. Okay. So I guess going back to the question. So when you first come under mental health services, what happened?
Oh my God.
Right.
What happened? Well, I had...
So you went into hospital, so that was the first...
That was... So yes, okay, I went into hospital, but then I left hospital without telling them. So I was only in hospital, so that was in my early 20s.
Right.
And then I left hospital without telling them.
Without telling the hospital?
Yeah.
Right.
And then I was just kind of floating for another 10 years or so.
Right.
And then I
do they not contact a mental health community team? No? Even though you're in hospital?
They didn't try and find me or anything.
They didn't even try and find you?
No.
Wow.
No.
So you left the hospital?
I just left.
And nobody tried to find you? That's bizarre, that is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, yeah. So then what happens?
They were going to section me, but I just
Right.
left. So then many years later, after having been bumbling around as an unwell person,
Right.
I can't remember what happened. I think I went to my GP, and my GP prayed for me. He held my hand and prayed for me, because I was saying, there's these people who want to kill me, or want me to kill myself rather.
So you're still experiencing all of that?
Yeah, but I was learning to do this thing which I call my dual brain.
Right.
I didn't realise it at the time.
Right.
But I was just learning how to separate out what I call my normal brain and my paranoid brain.
Right.
So I was learning how to have a conversation with somebody whilst being massively triggered in my head, and not confronting them with the fact that I thought they were trying to deliberately upset me.
Yeah.
So I was learning how to do that. But then, so my GP called in mental health services, and I had a CPN and a psychologist. No, what's the big medic person called?
Psychiatrist?
Psychiatrist. I had a psychiatrist who came round and put me on amitriptyline and forgotten the name of the other one, sulpiride, which was first time I've been on any medication.
Are they both antipsychotics?
I don't know. That's what they put me on.
Right.
I don't think amitriptyline is a antipsychotic. I think it's potentially more of an antidepressant.
Right. And then what did they tell you at the time? Was kind of, what was your condition?
I've never been told what my condition is. I've only ever seen it on my prescriptions where it has me down as being what's the word? Not psychotic. Schizoaffective disorder.
Yeah, right.
And depression, and
right.
That's what it said on my.
Is it? I always thought that schizoaffective was mood related. I'm not sure if it's that one or another one.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, somebody else. I'm sure that a friend has that, and I thought he told me that it was to do with like psychotic, like almost like bipolar and something else. Like the psychosis, all the illness is quite like mood related. I could be totally wrong there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something to do with schizophrenia and a bit of personality disorder, maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
I'm really intrigued to that you said that you'd left hospital because I left hospital once, and it was twice actually, but I wasn't sectioned. But certainly the second time, the police come and found me, but I wasn't sectioned. Yeah, I'm just intrigued. Nobody come to find you.
Nobody came to find me.
Like no mental health teams access, and no one comes to find you. I guess it was a long time ago, and
it was a long time ago.
And you know, my understanding is that these days that wouldn't happen, right?
No, we're talking 30 years
yeah,
ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Right, and so I guess when they put you on medication for your condition, what did you find? I mean, you know, I want to make this quite just a bit of an insight into medication itself.
So I've been on lots and lots of medications. So
like antipsychotics or antidepressants or?
Yeah, antipsychotics. I've been on risperidone.
Right.
Been on Dipixel.
Okay.
Been on clozapine.
Right.
I think I've been on others as well.
And is that because they tried you on one, they probably upped the dose, they tried you on another one, upped the dose, then they put you on clozapine. You said to me before that didn't work.
No, none of it worked. I was still taking photographs out of my bedroom window.
Right.
And yeah.
Did it not work at all?
No, it didn't. It didn't touch me.
Right. Did that make you think
that I was right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. It's really
and to this day, I still have my dual brain.
Right.
I still have my paranoid brain.
Yeah.
Which can be quite difficult sometimes, but other times it can be, you know, that I've learned how to challenge it. I've learned how to step back from it. I've learned how to make it less frightening.
Right, because I found from when I first become unwell, and quite often if I go back to the area, it can be quite triggering for me, and I think for myself moving on was a really useful step and changing a number of things really. But even to this day, you know, for me, I've got unfinished conclusions to come to. Just exactly, you know, I'm not bothered. I'm certainly not bothered like I used to be. But certainly sometimes I think, what was going on? What wasn't going on? And I've never really got an actual answer.
I don't suppose we can ever know, really, can we? But I think when they put me on aripiprazole and pyrazine, combined with sertraline antidepressant, that worked.
Right.
Obviously, I'd had a long journey in between then, when you know lots of things had happened. So it wasn't the defining thing. It was one of just generally life moving on. But I eventually after all of it, I did find a medication that made the difference. That stopped me from because my major coping strategy was just to sleep. I could sleep for 24 hours a day, literally.
Is that because it felt like an escape?
It was the safest place to be.
Yeah.
Get into bed, pull a duvet over my head.
Do you think that, I mean, living with that amount of distress for so long, I mean, how long did days seem to you?
Well, I think...
Because fear is hard to sit with, right? That level. And sometimes time can go so frigging slow when you're suffering, can't it?
It can, but I also, I had... what I used to do was I could just sit, but then I'd go off on journeys in my head.
Right.
Usually quite horrible things.
Right.
And, you know, hours would pass and then I'd think, oh my God, how did we get to 5 o'clock?
Right.
So it would be a bit weird like that.
What do you, I mean, I did have some questions and I think the conversation's just flowed and I probably don't even need to look at the questions, but so what do you think now? Like, you went through all that for all them years. How do you sit with your life and everything you've been through now?
Acceptance.
Right. Acceptance of what?
Acceptance of what was.
What was.
And what, or what I think was.
Yeah.
Because there are times when, you know, sometimes you doubt your memory, don't you? Sometimes things seem, and you think, well, am I remembering this right? And I have, you know, sort of explored, you know, things where I know that we all have a different perception of a memory of a situation. Like your memory of this will be slightly different to my memory of it.
No, I'm sure.
Because we're all coming from a different point of view. And I think as time passes, we retain certain stuff and we let other stuff drop out. And it's like, what was actually real? I feel like I've had, you know, at least 5 different lifetimes in my lifetime.
Right. And in terms of what
just different scenarios, you know, just sort of my younger self, and then my, you know, my person coming up to being teens, and then, you know, teens to late teens, and then 20s, and then 30s, and then 40s, and then 50s, and it's like, it all feels like different life. Right.
Just because your experience of those are so different, is that what you mean? That, or you're in, what is it? Because you're in different places each time, that you feel that you're in a maybe not completely different place, but I mean the spaces you've been in
feels like a different person experienced my life.
Right.
Feels like I'm not. Feels like I change dramatically each time. Feels like I evolve.
For the better?
Hopefully.
Right.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
So you've evolved because you feel you've painfully, but you've been learning about yourself.
Hope so.
Yeah?
Hope so. Yeah.
But do you think that's why you feel that maybe you're living that different lives? Because...
But then, you know, I think what we all have in common with mental health is why. Why is this happening to me? And I think that is something that, despite all the different lives that I feel I've had, that question just kind of colours everything and makes it much harder to accept that.
What? Okay, then. So, why? What answers did you come to?
I come to lots of answers.
I've had lots of different reasons why I think I've gone through what I've gone through, and sometimes, you know, they're a bit of a judgment on me at times, and on I think sometimes I kind of feel that maybe in some way, shape, or form I deserved.
Absolutely. And I still do to this day.
And I certainly feel that I needed a wake-up call at a certain period in my life, because I was just squandering it. I was certainly not living my best self. That's a positive way of putting it. and I think that I had to learn some very difficult lessons about myself. Yeah.
I've got a bit of an issue with thinking of myself as my best self.
I just wanted to find a positive way of saying I was letting myself down a lot of times.
Yeah,
I think that's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just. Yeah, and I think it's all the questions, isn't it? Why? And you do think, well, I deserve it, you know, and it's hard.
I mean, when I was younger, Lynn, I was pretty reckless, as lots of people are when they're going through their teens and things like that. And, you know, I think what for me, what came along with that recklessness was, I mean, you are young, so you are immature, and, you know, you are sort of, you know, you don't really understand much about life at that point. So if I was to say to anybody else, you didn't deserve that, or you know, okay, then so you make mistakes, or you know, you know, maybe along the path that you maybe have let yourself down a few times, but I don't think that people deserve to have to go through certain things. So you're saying you're talking about all them years that you've been going through that, and I've known you for a while now, and you didn't deserve it. Okay, I don't know everything about your life, right? But you know, to put that sort of judgment on ourselves that, you know, we deserve years and years and years and years and years of distress. I mean, you know, that's quite a self-criticism, isn't it?
Yeah.
And an unfair one, no?
I think it's the contradiction of the human brain, isn't it? Because I think we do that to ourselves, and we put that judgment on, and we say, well, you know, you deserve that, so suck it up and just get on with it.
Yeah.
But then there's also that part of us which I think is slightly more spiritual, and we may be thinking about karma or that kind of thing. And then when you start to question that in a different way, it doesn't make sense, because there are so many horrible things that happen. And I know I got to a stage in I wasn't aware it was my recovery, but I had a lot of times when I was writing stuff down quite a lot, and I made a tape for myself of like a positive affirmation.
Right.
But I think during that period I was thinking quite deeply, because I think when you have the psychotic, paranoid kind of thinkings, you can actually have some really kind of deep conversations with yourself, can't you?
I suppose you know, the world's turning against you. I mean,
thinking about karma,
right?
In that self-judgment that we have, because I think I went through a period of thinking about why me, and then thinking, actually, you know, there are horrible things that happen to people who absolutely don't deserve it. You know, people get raped, and people, you know, children get abused, and you know, people have really horrible things happen to them, and they absolutely don't deserve that kind of thing. So I think I kind of started to question in my mind, which I think was quite a big part of my recovery journey, because I started to reframe some things, not knowing I was doing it, into kind of going, you know, well, you know, not believing that I didn't deserve it, but having that other part of me that was thinking, actually, you know, horrible things do happen to people, and they don't deserve it.
So I guess so you're under a mental health service now. What would you say has been useful for you? I mean, because where you are now, you are leaps and bounds ahead of there, right? So what went right?
So what went right was I found a medication that helped. I started taking responsibility for my own mental
I love
health.
the word responsibility.
Well, it's a big thing.
It absolutely is.
And it's very hard to get your head around because when you're thinking, why me? You, in saying why me, you suddenly chop your arms and your legs off and make yourself an absolutely helpless being.
Yeah.
And it's about finding a way to put your arms and legs back on and actually, okay, so what can I do about it?
Yeah.
What will help me?
Did you think before that point, come to that point, that it was just something that was happening to you?
Absolutely. It was just, and now I had no control over it. There was nothing.
But how did you gain control? Was it by taking more responsibility of your situation?
And having responsibility in my life.
Right.
There were things that I had to start doing just in my life circumstances. I had to start taking more responsibility in certain areas. And I think just it's not, I don't think it's kind of chosen. I think it's part of a journey, and it's a time thing. So particularly with very deep depression, particularly with psychosis, particularly with paranoia, it is not something that you can say, if you do A, B and C, you will start to feel better. It takes a long time of your own lived experience for you to have enough evidence in your experience that helps you to start to kind of put things in places where they're not so frightening.
And probably, just to relate to that quickly, say through my paranoias and stuff like that, and worries and fears, and I'm a very avoidant guy. I'd rather be avoidant than find out something really bad, you know. But and I'd probably relate to that because it wasn't until years and years later that it's like, well, nothing's happened still after all these years, and especially when I got back into work after, you know, a long period, and I was still susceptible to paranoid thinking, and when I'd started to work part-time cleaning, it was quite difficult, and I used to think that I was convinced people were waiting for me at the end to do me over.
Yeah.
And I'd be pacing up and down in the cabins like, oh God, you know what, but I had to pass the out point, and after enough times of thinking that for enough days and nothing happening, I was getting the evidence. But as I say, I've spent a lot of time being avoidant in the years, and actually that not doing me much good.
No.
I mean, it can be difficult to face a fear that is
courage.
that worrying, especially if you feel that your life's in danger in some way. To have to face that's really difficult, and I've always struggled to know how to muster up that much confidence and strength when mental illness has had such a depleting effect on my sense of self or self-worth, or it can be difficult, right? It's easier said than done. I'm a tough person, I'm going to go and face this fear, I'm going to face this. It's not easy, is it? It's not easy. I've never found it easy.
And the thing is you know, when you wake up every morning, you get to a point where it's like, it actually is a choice. It actually is that really hard and horrible place to be, where it's like you start to think, well, actually, am I choosing this? Am I choosing to be avoidant? Or do I need to actually kind of find the courage to do it? And it is really hard because even in the horriblest place, when you've been in that place for many, many years, it's what you know, and it's what you're kind of used to. It takes a massive amount of courage to broaden that out. And
any tips on that?
I think it's finding what actually matters to you, what actually kind of feels what actually gets your gut reaction going.
So what means something enough
Yeah,
that can pull you through?
Yeah, and I think it's not only that, it's actually thinking about, because for me, I just was sleeping,
Right.
and I think it gets to a point where I said to one of my care co's, I'm just so fed up with being like this.
Yeah.
And I think you get to a point where it actually is like, I can't stand this anymore, so what else can I do? And I think if you're fortunate enough to have the right surroundings around you at that point in time when you're thinking like that, things can then start to move, and you can start to kind of open doors a little bit, which is still very scary. But I think everyone's journey is so individual that I don't think that there's one particular tip. I think the only thing that we can all of us who are experiencing this do is sit tight, ride it out, because if you don't, you're gonna do something life-changingly awful to yourself. And I think it's sometimes it's just sit tight, ride it out. There will be an opening, there will be some light, there will be something that will help you
At some point
put that ladder into place. And particularly with psychosis and very deep depression, sometimes it is just riding it out. And I think,
what do you do while you ride now?
well, hopefully you're under mental health services, and you've got a good care co who's gonna sit with you. Maybe you've got
what do you do in your own personal time though?
In your own personal time, well, that's a very individual thing. Some people will sleep, some people will get super busy, some people will do just watching the telly. Most of us aren't going to be going out a great deal. Most of us are going to be avoidant, quite significantly. Most of us are going to be isolating ourselves and making our worlds as small as possible, because that feels safe. It's like if you go into a really tiny room, as long as you're not claustrophobic, you feel safe because it's a small place. And so it's whatever, and some people will take drugs and drink, but we can come out the other side. I think it's just having that belief. It's just having someone in your life who can hold that for you while you're riding it out, I think.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. I wanted us to talk at the end about what sort of advice would you give, but I think that you've summed that up quite well. I think we've ended positively, and really, I guess the take-home message, the one thing is it might be difficult to ride out, but things can get better, and things do get better. You've spoken about years of this going on before you even seeked help. Then you seeked help, and then nothing really happened off the back of it, and all these years later, I guess you have seen them breaks and those things that have changed, and you've probably very difficultly learn about yourself and what is important to you, and I guess you do have a completely contrasting life now, right? I'm not saying you don't have difficulties or anything like that, but your life looks a lot different now to back in them days when all that started happening.
Very different, very different.
Yeah.
And I have a very different way of relating to myself.
Right. In a positive way.
In a positive way.
Okay, so the final thing we're going to discuss about is quickly, what have you gained? Like all them troubles, what have been the positives you can take from that?
Well, I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned that I do have strengths where I didn't think I had any.
Right.
But I think that the biggest thing is that, you know, there's I think when you're really deeply troubled, when you do ride it out and you come out the other side, you have a more chance of finding a sense of contentment.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean to say you don't ask the questions why. It doesn't mean to say you're not deeply troubled from time to time. But because of all the practices you put into place, like mindfulness and yoga, and learning all the techniques for stepping back and the breathing techniques, the distraction techniques, I think we find ourselves in a place where we can feel contented.
Do you think it's made you look at life, nothing to do with paranoid thinking or anything like that, but do you think through that whole process, do you think your outlook on life has been improved? Like without the distress, I just mean, you know, look, I have you down, I know that you're a very compassionate person, but I know that. But would you say that that's evolved into, I'm not saying you wasn't before, I'm just saying, do you think you've grown a greater understanding of I guess, just how frigging complex life can be and troubling, right?
Yeah.
And having been through that,
Oh yeah.
you know what that feels like, and you know when it hurts, it hurts.
Yeah.
So sometimes we can evolve into better people from it all. I do believe that, even if things can still be difficult and stuff like that. And, you know,
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
I'd like to think so, but I think there's always room for improvement. There's, you know, I don't think there's a day goes by when I don't think, oh my God, why did you say that? Why did you do that? You know.
Yeah, you're quite self-critical. You can be. I think you're overcritical. I think you've been on here, and I think you've spoken amazingly. It's been interesting, and hopefully, you know, just having that opportunity to raise awareness, and hopefully if somebody is going through maybe something similar to what you've been going through all them years, that they can see that, you know, your life has changed, and you know, you've managed to move along your recovery journey. As long as that's been, you know, I know that you know, you sit there a very wise lady now, okay? So that's how we're going to end on it. Okay, so we're going to end there, and finally we're going to end on, this is a quick fire round. Okay, you've got to be very quick with your answer. We're not going to sit here and mull through. See what you've got. Okay, I think I've got 11 questions. Okay, so what would you rather throw away, love or money?
Money.
Knew you'd say that. What's the most beautiful place you've ever seen? India. What's your fondest memory of high school?
None.
I knew you was going to say that. There must be something.
No.
Okay, forget that one. Forget high school. What's your favourite TV show?
NCIS.
NCIS, I knew that. What's the strangest thing in your refrigerator?
Strangest thing?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think any of my food is strange, but you'd probably think my toffee was strange.
Toffee? I've heard of toffee. I don't think I've ever tried it. What was your favourite toy growing up?
Oh, my koala bear or my clownie.
Yeah? They both teddies of some kind?
Both, yeah. My nanny took my clownie.
Right.